Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami.
Is it on?
Buddham saranam gacchami. Saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Buddham
Dende deje jaba da jumba yanda ba zobe sanje riba shabzu demba dewa shaba jikden kimba jebo deve karo lana meba lada menamje tumba sanje benyawa jaja doba Chudo jabzo jao dumba jumden de je jaba ta jumba yanda ba zobe sanje riba dan jabzo dewara jeba jeden jamba jebo deve galo jurwa lana lada menamje dumba sanje jumden de be java jaja doba Chudo jazo jo dumba jumden de je jaba ta jumba yanda ba zobe riba dan jazo damba dewara jaba jeden jamba jebo dube kanan jurwa lana meba ladam dumba sanje jumden de be jawa jaja duba la jaze Chudo jazo je os. Sorry, can I have the text? Thank you. So we are doing the tune, yeah? Okay. Lama dang gombo jezen jambe yang cha ze lo kange lo tenye kange lo tenye tende Nyenda namda rabse che nye aye dungwe che che aye se che nye je toga le bama enze kanda aye se be aye tsura aye ma re men do ma do nye ge ze ve Chozo guen lai po chi da zi ni na zhu zhi yang den song cho da ra e che zhu nye mo e nye lo e le je e cha zhu e che zi e che ma ri e me se To nye aye nye go je nye aye jen ze ra de nama de ne aye da je sa je da se yun de aye lun zo ja ze do we go Chu dai chu dai chu nye ai gen de na lu ai me se jang be yang la de oma arabazana 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 Omara bazana de 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 Omara bazana Omara bazana de 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 Omara bazana Omara Bazanado, 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 Omara Bazanado. Omara Bazana di 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 Zenden je jera weze je dalu timu myenpa rabze kadan denje zhonglo doba ye lo zhe bombe na wa ze lo su Peje Joje Mendo Dama Dera Lenje Nyende Gemba De Sanje Shendo Mede Bewai Jogun Namda Jenla Shubara Sho Lama Damba Ke Namanje Chugu Kala Kenze Tende Ene Jedara Zame Dujan Zemala Zavje Shuje Cham Abdu Mendala Ganaya Daya Me Sanje Jodan Zonje Jonamala Chanju Badu Dane Japsoje Tage Chuje Jebe Sonamanje Dola Penje San Dobara Sho Sanje Jodan Soje Jonamala Chanju Badu Dane Japsoje Dagi Joje Jebe Zonamanje Jola Penje San Jobara Sho Sanje Jodan Soje Chonamala Chanju Bado Tane Jamso Dagi Joje Jebe Zonamanje Jola Penje Sanje Jobara Sho. Good morning. Yeah. So how was your week? Any opportunity to apply what we have discussed in the last session? Anybody wants to share any insights? I see that many who are online wants to share. But too bad you are not here.
There's never a loss of opportunity to practice patience.
So did you?
I
The
tried.
question is, did you, isn't
I
it?
did try.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I found that I started to remember to be mindful at various points.
Okay.
Use that opportunity. But it's still amazing to me how mindless most of my day is.
Yeah, that's true with all of us. Yeah. So as I mentioned in our last class, I think setting up our mindset from the beginning, it really makes a difference. So the stronger the determination, stronger the resolve, it is more effective. Of course, first few days, even few weeks, you may not see any difference. But as you persist, then you may realize that, oh, this happens. So remember the story I shared with you regarding my anger issues. So it was so embarrassing. I really felt that that was the thing that really actually humiliated me so much. And because we all have ego, so you don't want to be humiliated. So that's why you want to do something about it, because it was so strong. At least now I can see what you call incipient when it starts to arise. Of course, the early years is like instant. There is no gradual development. It's just instant. You flare into anger, and then you lashes out. And then in the end, what happens? We regret. But when you have this resolve that, oh, I must do something about this. This is what really brings me down. This is what, in my case, humiliates me, makes me a very small person, not in a sense of physical, but it really makes you shallow and small. So when you have that strong feeling, you make a strong result. When you do that, slowly you may not be able to eradicate anger completely, but at least you will realize that, oh, for example, when we are having a very irritating conversation with another person, as you talk and then you see that it's irritating you. But earlier there was no such instances, just comes up. So I think it makes a difference. It makes a difference. So of course the Dharma practices, we cannot expect instant result, instant transformation, instant change. It will be very gradual, but it will happen if we put effort. The reason is that we have been habituated in those habits so long, for how many lifetimes. And who knows, maybe this is the only time we met Dharma. So based on that, if that were true, then it's like, how can you expect to have a complete transformation when this is the only first time you are realizing and trying to do something, when all those countless lives, you have been engaging in this on a daily basis. So, but we shouldn't get discouraged. Buddha said that even mosquitoes, cockroaches can achieve enlightenment. If they can, why not? Why not us? We have a bigger brain, we have a greater capacity of intelligence, and then we have all these conditions. We have many great teachers, we have access to all the Dharma teachings, we have the intellectual capacity to really understand and distinguish what is right from what is wrong. Whereas for others, like insects, they do not possess such capacity. So there's still hope. So don't get lose hope. So let's start. So this is where we stopped in last class. It says, hence everything is governed by other factors, which in turn are governed by others. And in this way, nothing governs itself. Having understood this, I should not become angry with phenomena that are like apparitions. I would say apparitions. So this is what we discussed in the past. This is regarding that the patience of certitude, where when we get angry at a situation or a person, so instead of blaming that person completely, blaming that person as the main person, by saying that we need to consider other conditions, that person is also compelled by causes and conditions, especially his afflictions, his anger. So we should take that into consideration. And then we talked about everything arises due to the causes and conditions coming together. Once causes and conditions are there, there's nothing. That's why you see that in the picture, that grass, that fragile grass, has cracked open that road. So when we think it's like, how can this be possible? But when the causes conditions are there, the result has no control over it. It is under the control of causes and conditions. So that's what we said. Everything happens because of causes and conditions coming together. So we should understand, by understanding this, he said, I should not become angry with phenomena that are like apparitions. So it is the patience of certitude. The main point is about everything is inherently, there is no inherent existence. There's no inherent nature. There's nothing absolute. We get angry at a person and we label them, we perceive them as evil, as enemy. By saying that, where is evil? Is there an absolute evil? Is there an absolute enemy? To us, we perceive, we see that person as absolutely evil. To us, that is an absolute enemy of mine. But here is saying that foes and friends is all a label. The person whom we hate so much, whom we see as an aggregate of faults, but there are others who see that person as a jewel. There are so many examples. The person whom we all have a person, I think, whom we don't really like them. We see so much faults and evil in that person. But there are a group of people who see that person as something, full of virtue, a great being, a great person, great friend. So if the friend or the evil or good exists from its own side, then whoever sees that person should see that person as we see, as evil, if the evil exists from its own. So it is all our imputation, our interpretation, how we perceive things. So I came across this interesting article by someone called Norman Cotterill. I don't know, it's a he or she, it's a PhD. Norman Cotterill. So he writes, he says, anger is built on expectations. We expect people to treat us fairly, and they don't. We expect children to respect the wishes of their elders, and they don't. We expect the government to have our needs at heart, and it doesn't. Each time there is a gap between expectation and reality, anger is more than willing to fill in that gap. That's so true. Why we get angry? Because we have some expectation. We wanted the person to respond or behave in a particular way that suits us. When that doesn't happen, we get angry. That person, what an evil person. Then we started to view that person as enemy, somebody we should hate. So this boils down to, it's all about selfish. It's all about one perspective. It's all looking from your own perspective. You're just wearing your own lens and then looking and then, oh, it doesn't fit mine. It doesn't fit mine. So that person is bad. But when we're able to kind of, what do you call, stay, what do you call that? Step back. We step back, and then when we try to examine the situation with from different perspectives, from different angles, then we realize, hey, it's not really the case. So the patience of certitude is all about looking from different perspectives. That will broaden our view. That will broaden our selfish view. So it says, this article is on Aaron Beck's, the Beck Institute. Aaron Beck is a cognitive psychologist, and His Holiness is very fond of Aaron Beck. So there are some some of the things they have suggested, and I thought these are very good. A should rule is broken. So when we are able to look from this different angle, different perspective, we will be able to break this I should rule. Why we get angry is always there's this should rule. He should behave this way. He should do this way. And all this is based on our assumption, our belief, our value, or our own reasons. So that's why he should behave this, she should do this, shouldn't be doing this. So being able to look from all different angles, then we will be able to break this I should rule. When we don't have this strong feeling that he should respond to me in this way, then when the person doesn't do or doesn't respond in that particular way, we don't get offended. We don't get angry. Why we get angry is because you have this expectation. And then it says that this we will cover later. Another way is we have to examine what hurts. If a person hurls an insult, how does it really, what is the real hurt that causes? Does it cause physical hurt? It is just a word, isn't it? Word hurts when we take it, when we, treasure it, or when we really give interpretation, when we give meaning. If we are able to treat it like a breeze, Tibetan saying, Amjo Jabjil Hakba, that means constantly we get breeze at the back of our ears. We just ignore it. So we should be able to treat that way all the insults, all the unpleasant things that people say. Because after all, it doesn't really hurt us physically. We give meaning, and that's when it hurts us. So I thought that this kind of aligns with what Dharma says. Another way they suggest is that hot thoughts. So they suggest reactive thought and I think reflective. So when we, without any reflection, our normal tendency is just react. We hear something, boom, goes our response. But here is saying that first examine our thought. Because if we are able to do that, then we have the we can choose how to respond. When we react, There is no choice. There's no freedom. It's like a reflex. You have no choice. It's automatic. Whereas when you are able to examine, kind of able to reflect, then you can choose how to respond. So the example they give is very common. So reactive would be if somebody cuts into your car. It's like, how dare he? But reflective response will be, maybe that person is a human being, maybe there's an emergency. So that kind of interpretation helps. So I thought these are relevant and quite simple, but effective if put into practice. So here it says that all these anger and everything, all phenomena, do not have inherent existence. So we have discussed this before. The main reason is all these are dependent arising. So when things are dependently arising, then they do not have their independent nature. So inherent existence is synonymous to independent identity. So when we say something is independent, the connotation is that it does not rely, it does not depend on any other factors, any other conditions. But we know that that is not the case. Everything, even table, all this, even this class we call class, in order to be able to call a class, we need somebody to give a lecture. We need somebody here to listen. And then there must be something happening. When all this come together, then we say, oh, I attended the class. So different class, different factors coming together. So because of this, there is no independent nature. So he says, the Buddha says, Chönam keni mangbu da lenji dule chungwa yins, keni mangbu dube rangshin kini meba yins. Especially those products like anger and all these are impermanence. So these are products of something. So these are all come into being because of coming together all the causes, various causes and conditions. Because they arise due to the causes and conditions, it says that there is no inherent existence, inherent nature. So as such, they are like apparitions, like illusions. We know what illusion is. So when we encounter this kind of difficulty or a difficult person, so instead of getting angry, we should consider all that and then have to think that these are like apparitions, like illusion. So there's no point in getting angry at these things. Let's just watch this. Yeah, the sound, because I have used this one.
The ghetto Houdini. Like Houdini, but ghetto. Like ghetto. Yes, sir. You are a magician then? Yes, sir. A bar magician to be exact. A bar magician. Well, this is a big bar here. So have you been doing magic all your life? Is that what you've been doing as... I was a Marine. Well, thank you for your service. Welcome. Good luck. You're no longer in the Marines? No, sir. Are you doing this full time? Yes, sir. And how was it going for you? It could be a lot better in about 5 minutes. Okay. Let's see you do what you do. Am I allowed to go closer to you guys? You can, yes. All right, thank you very much. You're welcome. Now, the thing about bar magic as opposed to regular magic is the fact that I don't use big props. I can't afford them. And that's all I have to dazzle the world. Right. Now, the thing about magic that happens close to your face is that it has to be performed exquisitely. If I can pronounce that word correctly, but... oh, excuse me. Just caught the card. But honestly, I just do not like card tricks because that's amazing. But I have a beautiful 6-year-old son, and I want to do something to you, Miss Mel. Oh wow, that my little boy likes. You'll see it. The other side. Thank you. Oh, perfect. I'm gonna take this ball, put it right about here. I want you to hold that ball real tight for me. Thank you. With that ball there and that ball there, we're gonna go abracadabra. Open up here. Oh. Shut up! Shut up! Let me mentally assault you two in good things. Because I am ghetto. Oh. Wow. Wow. Good. That's good. Whoa! Pretty cool. Thank you. Not my name, though. That is the name. Whoa!
So when as an audience, when we are watching, we are like, wow, we made it. But the magician, he knows it's a trick. He knows that what he sees is not real. But to us, to audience, wow, how come? It's spectacular. So now when we watch this, oops. Oops.
Isn't this real magic? Actually, you don't have to pass exams at some magic university to master this trick. All you need to do is prepare a simple fake finger in advance. Magicians often use these kind of props, and for a reason. Watch his hands. When Smoothini opens the salt cellar, the fake finger is on his left hand, and after a second it's in a tight fist. And now, if you look closely, the finger ends up on the thumb of the right hand. Voila! And again, it's clenched in his fist. He can keep repeating it as many times as he wants, as long as he has enough material and the audience doesn't notice the dexterity of his hands. By the way, Smoothini himself is drawing the audience's attention to the other hand like a true professional. What can we say? He is the real deal.
So now is when you realize that, oh, it's nothing really, spectacular, or nothing to be awe about, isn't it? So that's what we should realize with all the things, all the phenomena. To us, they really appear like what is like salt falling from the air. When we perceive things, whatever comes to our contact, to us there is something real solid there. That is the problem. Because of that, we have all these problems. The minute we are able to kind of decipher this as not real, it's not true, it's kind of a trick, the mind is playing trick on us, then we will be able to stop all this nonsense. Oops, I forgot to put this back. So at the moment, we say that, oh yeah, things do not exist inherently. There is no solidity, there's no absolutism in the things. That's what we say. But we have not really internalized. We haven't reached that conviction level. So that only comes when we are able to perceive actual empty nature of things. When able to perceive emptiness, when able to gain real insight into emptiness. Those who have gained real insight into emptiness is like the magician. So yeah, you see all this, yeah, I see all this, but this is a trick. That person knows that all these are tricks. So because that person knows that there's nothing real there, the person sees all this as apparition, like illusions. So if it's like illusions, there's no point in holding on to it. There's no point in attaching some meaning or purpose and then developing attachment to things. So that's the whole point. So the patience of certitude is all about understanding the empty nature of things. So when you're able to really gain insight into empty nature, then anger hardly arises. There's no room for anger to arise. First of all, why we get angry is we talked about our expectation. Why it is so important for us is because we have this strong attachment to us. And then because, where did this attachment arise? Because we hold there is some independent I, solid I there. Because there's this solid I, we kind of develop attachment to it. We cherish this. So when anything that offers benefit and help to this independent I, then we develop attachment. And those who hinders us, those who harms this independent I, what happens? We develop aversion. We started to hate the person. We started to dislike that person. So on the one hand, it is because of our attachment to ourselves, which was due to this misconception or misconstruing this identity of I. That's one reason. Another reason is the other person, other thing. We also view them solid there. That's why we think, oh, there's something tangible, something solid there, something absolute there. That's why coming these two, interaction of these two, then give rise to all these afflictions, give rise to all our problems. So the main antidote is realizing the emptiness, the empty nature of things. So that's the gist essence of that certitude, the patience of certitude. So now the question arises. Kangi kangshi do chade doban riba minshena telatene tunyen kunje kurdu mirik mes. So now if you are saying that everything is like apparitions, then is it what is the whole point? Then isn't it pointless to work towards eradicating our anger? Because it's like illusion. So why? It says, if everything is unreal like apparitions, then who is there to restrain what anger? First of all, what there's no real anger there. And then because there's no real anger, where is there a person to restrain? It's all like illusion. Surely in this case, restraint would be inappropriate. So thereby it's like whatever you're talking all previously is like it's just inappropriate. Because your final conclusion is anger, the hatred, other person, everything is devoid of inherent existence. Because of that, we should view them as illusion, like illusion. So in that case, why we bother? Why strive? It's pointless. It says, not really the case. It says, it would not be inappropriate because conventionally I must maintain that in dependence on restraining anger, the sting of suffering is severed. Whether there is no inherent nature or not, but we still undergo suffering. We still experience pain and suffering, which we do not desire, which we do not wish to experience. But these are happening. So it's that ultimately, there is no inherent existence. But conventionally, these things exist. So when we say things do not exist inherently, it does not mean that things do not exist at all. But things exist. But the way things exist is not the way we think things exist. The way we perceive things. We perceive things existing from its own side. But he's saying that no, that's not the way things exist. Things do exist, but things exist in relation to causes and conditions, or coming together other factors and conditions. So when all this come together, we give the label, we impute, and then that's how things exist. So conventionally, there is anger. Conventionally, there is consequences of being angry. And who suffers? We suffer. So if we want to prevent undergoing the consequences of anger, then it says that we need to, even though it is apparition-like, it is illusion-like, but we still need to work towards curbing our anger, work towards eradicating anger from the root. So now this is like the summary of the patience of certitude. Tewe tam zayang rung miri chewa tong gyurna tende kenle gyurdoshe tedar somde tewar nös. So when seeing a human enemy or even a friend must be fried, it says. Yeah, even a friend committing an improper action by thinking that such things arise from conditions, I shall remain in a happy frame of mind. It's quite self-explanatory, isn't it? So after contemplating all the reasons that Shantideva provided before, so now what we are supposed to do, what we should do, is that whenever we encounter difficult persons, difficult people, or even friend. So here, why it is saying is, because remember the patience of certitude is about realizing the non-existence of inherent existence. It's like realizing the empty nature of things. If we lack that, that's when we develop attachment to our friends and aversion, anger, hatred towards those whom we don't like. So when we encounter all this, we need to understand that by thinking that such things arise from conditions, first of all, we should stop ourselves from committing any improper actions. It is very hard to do, isn't it, when anger takes over us. So when anger comes on, first thing it does is it clouds our judgment. We are not thinking clearly. We lose that ability to think clearly. So because of that, we have no control over what we are saying, what we are doing. So that's why many times when our anger subsides, and then when we come back to our senses, we realize what a damage, what a fool one had made of oneself. Then you started to apologize. But of course, given that you don't have that ego, some egoistic person cannot even accept that you are at fault. So this, what you call the apology, never arises. The instances of apologizing to the person never arise. Even when such arises, what do we say? Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was so angry. The anger took over me. We blame anger there. It's not me. I am really good. I wouldn't even think of saying this. It's just the anger that made me say. So from this we know that anger has these disadvantages. What is called, we talked about this, that we need to do what is called cost-benefit analysis. To go through cost-benefit, what is the benefit? What is the disadvantages? So one of them is that we know that our minds become clouded. We say things, do things, and then we feel very embarrassed at the end of this. And because of anger, many relationships were destroyed. It could be relation between spouses, between husband and wife, between siblings, between friends, between classmates, work colleagues. Anger is always there to do that. So here saying that committing an improper action. So if you let anger take over, then we will be we will engage in actions or improper actions that we will regret later. So what we should do is, when this situation arises, we should think that things arise from conditions. I shall remain in a happy frame of mind. I shouldn't let my peace of mind be destroyed. I will face the anger. I will not give victory to anger. I will not submit to anger's force. I will fight back. And fight back is not just suppressing our anger. It is thinking logically, giving all that reason we have talked about. So if you just press it down, then there will be time it will burst. So it will bottleneck, and then one time you will have an outburst. But whereas if you apply these reasons, you apply these logical reasons, then you will see the reason, and then you will realize that it is not good at all. It is not to my benefit. So that's what it means. I shall remain in a happy frame of mind by thinking that such things arise from conditions. If things gather range dubjo na gayan to nye mendube, lujen tani tamche jang sulan to nye chung mendure. So this is a final kind of a refutation to the views that things arise without depending on its causes and conditions. If things arise automatically or autonomously, then it says if things were brought into being by choice, then since no one wishes to suffer, suffering would not occur to any embodied creature. So since nobody wishes suffering, nobody wishes unpleasant experiences, then there wouldn't be anybody who would be undergoing unpleasant experiences if things were brought into being by choice. If we have a choice, if it does not depend on causes and conditions, then nobody would suffer. So this also, what do you call, suggests that if we don't want to experience the consequences, negative consequences of anger, then we should do something about anger. Likewise, if we want to experience pleasant experiences, we also need to cultivate the causes and conditions that give rise to pleasant experiences. I think earlier we covered Shantideva's, which is my favorite. What is this? Tunyin donde semyo jang tunyin ni la ngombar ju tewan de jang timu be rangi tewa tadra joms. So our situation is this: even though we really wish happiness, Shantideva says that even though we wish happiness, we run towards suffering. Even though we wish, we do not wish. No, even though we do not wish. Even though we wish to avoid suffering, Shantideva says, the childish like us, ordinary people, run towards suffering. Even though we wish happiness, it says we destroy our happiness as if it were our arch enemies. So when you first read it, it's like, who could be doing this? Nobody would do that. But the clue lies ignorantly, he says, Shantideva says, we ignorantly destroy our happiness. Because we are ignorant about what gives rise to happiness, what gives rise to suffering. So even if we know, some of us we know, but we don't have that conviction. So what happens? Despite wishing to avoid suffering, we engage continuously in negative karma. As a result, we experience. And then happiness arises from virtuous actions, which we hardly have time. Do we have time? Mm-hmm. Do you spend time to do virtue? What do? You are still in school or?
Yeah.
School. Oh.
A student and a part-time.
So no time, isn't it? You have to go to school and then you have to go to do part-time job.
Yeah.
But of course, it's all about your mindset. Yeah. So when we say practice Dharma, doesn't mean that you have to sit quietly in your prayer room. You can practice Dharma everywhere. Like Shanti, there was this one. Especially if you are with people at your workplace, it provides ample opportunity to practice this. So, until up to this one, we discuss there are three kinds of patients. So we have already discussed what are three kinds of patients. Okay, let me test. Come on.
Patience of certitude.
First certitude, that's what I mentioned. What was the first one that we covered? The patience of accepting pain. Patience of accepting pain and enduring it. And then the last one is patience of
Patience.
persevering is persevering. Patience of disregarding harm. So there are three types, three kinds. I have repeatedly covered this. So the first thing is we talked about the patience of accepting pain. So that is, as I always stress on this is very important, because we live in this imperfect world where all these disappointments are disappointments and sufferings are part and parcel of our existence. So if we fail to cope with these adversities, then it will be very, very difficult. So we need to develop, the scientific term is resilience. So this is Shantideva is teaching us how to cognitively develop resilience. And I was just doing a course, online course on resilience, and I thought that there are some interesting factors they mentioned. So what they call protective factors of resilience, all the factors that enhance or help resilience. So there are many, some of the things that I'm going to share with you here. One is self-awareness. So that is like what we always talk about. Whatever we do, whatever practice we do, we need to have three things: mindfulness, introspective awareness, and then, come on, conscientiousness, is it? Conscientiousness. We need all these three things. So one, self-awareness is similar to that. It's about knowing our thoughts, what we are thinking, what is happening in our thought, and then what is happening in terms of our emotions, what kind of emotions happening. So these, if we are aware of this, if we are aware of our thoughts, thought pattern, because thought pattern counts, like pessimistic thought pattern, then it is hard to develop resilient. We will fail. If you see, let's say, if you have to give a speech, and then you're dreading, and if you view it as a threat, compared to you view it as an opportunity to shine myself, there's a difference. When you see that event as an opportunity or as a challenge to yourself, that kind of thought, then you will be more resilient. Whatever may come its way, whatever difficulty, one will be more able to face that challenge. So self-awareness is very important. What I'm thinking, what kind of feeling I am feeling. Let's say your emotion, if you are so anxious, there are certain things you first need to realize that, oh, I am feeling anxious. There are other things you can do when you say, just breathe. Count your breathing. that will ease your anxiety. So first thing is like they say that self-awareness is important factor. And then self-regulation. Just self-awareness is not enough. Of course, now that you are aware of what your emotions are, you are aware of your thoughts, but if you don't do anything, if you don't self-regulate, then it's not going to help you. So it says self-regulation is the second one, where you have the ability to regulate or change your thought patterns or your thought, whatever you are thinking. If it is a negative or pessimistic thought, then try to substitute with more positive. And then optimism, believe in a positive future. That's very important. And then they talk about goal setting. Then self-efficacy, the I can do attitude. Just now we talked about. So one of the perseverance is about this self-efficacy, this attitude that I can do it. As we talked before, if the insects can achieve enlightenment, then I can. So that boosts our enthusiasm. So these some of the what do you call the factors that we can use. So now I think it's our break time. Let's see whether I get to our. Oops. Here we go. Thank you.
This is the chai.
No, it's just water.
Just hot water. That should be warm. Is it not? No. I can warm it up. Normally warm it up and put it in that little pot. But we didn't do that.
There's the patience of teaching students that forget things really quickly. It's amazing. I like these tests though. Maybe a final exam.
Yeah.
Encountered the text before or encountered the teaching, and then you hear it,
Oh,
and again it's like, oh, I don't remember hearing this. Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, it's like
There's
reading a
always
book.
another layer that
Yeah.
appears, you know.
That does happen. Reading the same book or the same verses, you get new things out. For me though, like words are a real problem because I don't have a good memory for words, so if you say mindfulness or awareness, or actually introspective awareness is a really good one. But for me, it just all kind of all melts together.
There's at least there's something there to melt.
Yeah.
You know, in some cases it's completely, missed.
Yeah. But I think it's, like words are more like reference pointers to concepts.
Yes.
And so think it's a good exercise to remind us to remember those things. Because we can understand them when we teach them, but then when we go out to the door,
Leave everything here, isn't it?
it's so nice to be back all together.
Yeah.
Such
How long does it take for you to drive here?
40 minutes. So that's not too bad.
How about you?
25.
From your 25.
I
It's,
live in South Minneapolis.
South.
Yeah,
It's
so
near
near
Minnehaha.
Lake, yeah, near Minnehaha Falls. You've been, yeah, and Lake Nokomis. Yeah.
25 minutes.
Uh-huh. So, yeah. So you've gone to Minnehaha Falls?
Chai maybe there is.
No, it's in the south section.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Would you like to try chai? Maybe there is something, some drinks.
No, I think it's okay.
Okay.
We had chai this morning. Thank you.
我哋係年年水水魚嘅，水咗魚嘅，係嚟魚腦
Thank
年年。
you for looking after us.
First of all, to let us use the place,
Yeah.
and then make tea and all that.
Tea.
And clean, she's been cleaning.
Yeah. And then every morning, you know that those Sundays you have to wake up
But
early
it's just
to.
for a short time. I was happy to do.
You can have tea.
Yes.
Yes, tea.
Oh, thank you. So have you been visiting all the lakes around the Twin Cities?
Yeah, last week it was cooler.
Yeah.
The previous 2 weeks was just hot. 30,
Yeah.
33, 31. No, hiding in the house.
Yeah, and the next week's
You
going to be
know,
very hot.
she is Eskimo.
What?
Eskimo.
Yeah, I love cool. I love the cool.
So
Oh,
It
well
was
then you
a bit
should visit here
hot.
in the middle of winter.
Not that cold.
yeah, if it is hot, then she melts. So we cannot go out.
It isn't, I mean, you live in Malaysia, isn't it very hot?
Sorry for the delay. They had to
Oh, it's okay.
Because
Okay.
of work, you're so used to that.
Right,
kind of
isn't
environment.
everything's
Suddenly
air
when you're
conditioned?
exposed.
Mhm.
When I retired, it's like,
Oh.
I'm having chai as well.
Okay.
Oh,
But it is very
tradition.
hot there, yes?
it is.
And humid.
It's 33 every day.
Well, you won't lack for something
And
you
upwards.
Yeah.
So,
Are you having tea? Chai.
I'm having some.
Oh, okay.
It's very good.
And how about you, Ken then?
Yeah.
You are having tea?
I'm having tea.
But you can have, is it? I thought
I
you
have
cannot.
tea.
Oh.
I used to be a little bit not so good with milk,
Oh.
but it's okay.
Sugar, okay?
Yeah, sugar is the problem.
Mm.
But
But
a little
this
bit of sugar is okay.
once in a while.
Yeah, that's a lot, yeah.
The famous line. Yeah. Yeah, we have a friend who is diabetic,
hardcore diabetic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
whenever we
But-
meet, just eat ordinary. So I would say, once in a while. So every time is once in a while.
This pile of white rice
Yeah.
once in a while.
Well, it's funny because if you can turn on diabetes and then turn it off, it's the best thing for dieting because your body doesn't take in
Oh,
any of the carbohydrate or sugar,
I
which
see.
brings fat.
Mm.
So the problem is that instead of if you eat a lot of carbohydrate or sugar, it stays in the blood, but it doesn't get turned into fat
Or energy.
or energy.
Oh,
So that's the trick.
that's the issue.
But it's like, I used to like milk, and then when I realized I was lactose intolerant,
Oh, you
After a
feel
while, yeah,
bloated and
indigestion.
indigestion.
But then after a while, you realize, like your mind starts to correlate. Oh, if I drink that, I'll feel bad.
Mm.
The same way with sugar. Like, I,
If only
Like-
we could apply
you're
that to
teaching.
if you get angry and we feel bad.
exactly when you have
Yeah,
enough
the
of those
habits.
experiences.
Yeah.
So as we get older, we should be getting happier.
last week Rinpoche was talking about the squirrels in our patio. I'm quite partisan, you know. I don't like the bullies. I like the more gentle ones, the cute ones, you know. But then after that mama squirrel incident, you know, where we realized, oh my gosh, she's actually starving. That's why she's so aggressive, you know.
Right.
So now I'm kind of, okay, just feed all, you know, because they have their own needs, you know, and trying to anyway. But the cute one gets extra nuts.
Can I show everybody else the video you sent?
Sure.
Pictures.
What video is this?
The squirrel. Our squirrel.
Oh. You should have squirrels where you live too, no?
Yeah, we don't. We used to.
You don't?
Before we moved, we had a lot of squirrels, but my cats would eat them. So.
Really?
Yeah.
But they're quick.
I know. It was.
Cats
It
are
really.
quick.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
I
really
guess they
good.
pounce. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Oh,
And they're also pretty mean. Like, you know, they'll
who are pretty mean?
squirrels. Squirrels can bite.
Oh.
Mm.
That was nice.
I see. Do squirrels bite back? I mean, you know, bite cats when they don't.
Not, cats can.
Cats are just so much bigger,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're bigger and stronger.
But they don't attack birds or anything, right?
No,
Squirrels,
they're not carnivores. They're
okay.
just trying to defend themselves
I see.
and their territory and their food.
I see.
I heard that the squirrels will try to bite each other's tail.
Oh, is that why they chase each other around?
Yeah.
Some squirrels are practically hairless, so they must have been in lots of fights.
Yeah.
The
so
bullies tend to have hair loss, and the more placid ones are those with full tails. I see. So that's how they fight, yeah?
Well, I was told that
Crap.
if a squirrel loses its tail, I used to see squirrels like with short tails, and they had
Oh,
lost, you know.
bitten off.
But then they die in the winter because without the tail, they can't keep themselves warm. So I think the ones with the tails are the bullies, and the ones without the tail are the losers.
In this case, the mama, she's lost a lot of the hair on the tail. I think it's just lots of fights.
Yeah.
She's really aggressive, you know, about food.
Right.
I mean, you can understand why now, you know. But, so, you learn things, you know, if you sort of spend time and just observe nature.
Mindfulness of nature, that's a good one. How long a drive is it for you to come?
Ken gives us a ride.
I think it's 15 minutes, isn't it?
Closer to 20.
20 minutes.
Well, that's quite good.
Mm.
This is Fridley.
Friendly, yeah, friendly.
Is Ken pretty good about being friendly in traffic?
I haven't seen any maniacal behavior.
No, my driving strategy changed when I got a plug-in hybrid because I tried to preserve the battery capacity. So it's going slow in front of me. I'm saving battery capacity.
Right.
So I
Okay.
used to be not aggressive, but I was impatient.
Yeah.
That was one of my big places to practice patience.
I started getting really frustrated with myself over being impatient. And so then I started playing this like game where I would imagine, oh, that's my my daughter or my son, and they have to go somewhere.
Oh, clever.
Just let them
Yeah,
go.
that's exactly what's being
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah.
I like to
That's
watch
what-
the news, and I just get angry all the time when I'm
Oh.
watching the news because there's just so much, there's just too much
Yeah,
going
too
on,
much,
you know,
yeah.
and I try and sort of separate the person from, you know, the
yeah.
greed for power, but I haven't succeeded. I still get so
My
mad.
trick is to not watch the news at all.
Yeah.
Just,
So,
forget that.
take a breather away from it.
I had an interesting thing happen with that. Just like you said, we tend to associate whatever the views are with the
Yeah,
person.
with the person, they get
And,
merged.
and so
you know?
yeah, and so I have a client that I've worked with for 8 years who I do accounting work year round, so we interact all the time, and I really like him. I mean, really, and we just have a good relationship back and forth and exchange emails all the time. He's running for a state political office now. I'm not going to say his name, and has very different political views than me.
Oh.
Yeah, like very far good right-wing Trump supporter, very different than me, and it was really interesting because like I looked up his platform and I couldn't believe how like divisive it was and extreme, and
yet that's not your experience.
that's not my
with him.
experience at all. Like I really like him, and then he has these views that are so different. So that's been an interesting lesson for me because I normally, you know, would kind of associate them together, and I still really like them. I'm just more perplexed.
I know it's kind of disappointing.
It was disappointing, but yet he runs a nonprofit and he does really good work with different things. So it's this weird mixture. Yeah. It was a very good
I had a
lesson.
roommate in college like that. He's now a minister. And I haven't seen him in years, but same thing. Okay.
Man, you're ding.
Gone.
Yeah, where's the gone?
I missed my opportunity. Okay. So now we are entering a new kind of topic. So we have already finished discussing on the first two types of patients. So now we are on to the final one, which is disregarding harm. Is it disregarding harm? Yeah, disregarding harm. Patients of disregarding harm. So this topic is taught under three main subtopics. So first one is to develop compassion towards that person, whoever has inflicted harm on us. So we try to, instead of getting angry and trying to get even with the person, we try to develop compassion. And then the second topic is to avoid or prevent any causes and conditions that give rise to that kind of anger and hatred. And then finally, it is about when things happens to us, unpleasant things happen to us, caused by another person. So we accept it as our own faults, in a sense that nothing arises without karma. Everything, whatever happiness or joy or pain, everything arises because of our karma, as a result of our own karma or action in the past. So that's one way of reducing our animosity towards the other person, thinking that that person is not to blame. It is actually our karma that is giving rise to these unpleasant experiences. So the first one here, it says, the first one, so the first one is also, for the first topic, which is the methods to develop compassion, it has another 3 subtopics. So it's like Simjen Kashi Mishibe Wangi Rala Nyoba Chavas. So other sentient beings, because of their ignorance, they cause harm to themselves. And then second one is, since they cause harm to themselves, which they treasure so much, then it is nothing surprising that they are causing harm to other person, because to them you are nobody. So it shouldn't be a surprise that that others are causing harm to us. And then based on these reasons, then we cultivate compassion. So these are the 3 subtopics. So now the first is Pame Pene Talang Ta Serma Laso Nyoba Che Pime Laso Tobje Che Ngamshin Seju Laso Che. Though not being careful, people even harm themselves with thorns and other. So here it says, thorns and other things, and for the sake of obtaining women and the like, they become obsessed and deprive themselves of food. So here, the reason why we get angry at another person is solely that that person inflicted harm on me. It hurt me. It caused harm to me. That is the main reason. So if that is our reason, is saying that, then one way to look at it is that we ourselves cause so much harm to ourselves. We are ignorant. Just an example is, let's say, like dieting, for example. People do extreme dieting. It is quite painful to your body. The reason is because of, they say that it's because of this wanting to be perfectionist. You want to look perfect in every aspect. Your physics, you are so obsessed with your appearance, how you look. So some people go for these extreme type of dieting. And they eat very little. And then some people, of course, there is a disorder. What was that? Anorexia and bulimia. No. So that is, you throw out, isn't it? After you eat, you feel so guilty, and then you take pill or whatever it is just to vomit. How painful that is. We do this to ourselves. That's just one example. And then if we think from the Dharma point of view, we engage in negative karma. We get angry. We are driven by attachment. All these it harm us. It causes harm us. Sooner or later, it will harm us, especially anger on the spot. It destroys our peace of mind. It even destroys our sleep. Try to sleep in an intense anger. No way. If you are feeling sleepy and somebody hurls you an insult, see, can you sleep? Cannot. So if our main reason is the person is harming me, then you should be angry with yourself, isn't it? Because you engage in so many things to harm yourself, to inflict harm on you. And then those people who inflict harm on us, harm doers, whatever you call, those whom we are not happy with, those whom we are angry with, it says they are also not doing out of freedom. They are doing because they are compelled by their afflictions. Ignorance. It says, though through not being careful, careful is here we can refer to it as ignorance. Out of ignorance, people even harm themselves. So this is called self-flagellation. They have these beliefs. From Buddhist perspective, these are ignorant because they believe that self-flagellation can, purify. It's kind of a penance. So they believe that this will help them. And then in non-Buddhist beliefs, there are people who follow or who subscribe to this belief that if you die jumping on this poke, spear, you will achieve nirvana. And then some people put yourself to all kinds of pain, like walking on these embers. That is part of their practice. So we do all these kind of crazy things. And then it says thorns and other things. So other thing one is here, you see. This is taipusam, isn't it? Is another practice is a religious practice where they pierce their body with all kinds of, these sharp things. They really believe that these are spiritual practice, but causing so much harm. And for the sake of obtaining women and the like, and in ancient days, you have to participate in this competition to win the hand of a princess or some lady. So you have to engage in all kinds of activities. So that's another kind of torture. And then for ourselves, we chase after wealth, fame, status. We do that all the time. If we do only for our survival, for sustenance reason, that's okay. But we have this misconception that if I gain wealth, if I become wealthy and rich, I will be happier. That is not the case from our own experience and also from scientific findings as well. And then fame, status, power. We engage in all this, but eventually, what does it do? It harms us, it causes harm. They become obsessed and deprive themselves of food. Like if you are working so hard, those who are doing 2 shifts is very common in Tibetan community, isn't it? You know that. Doing 2 shifts is 16 hours. And you add on the driving, the time taken to go to work, that is how many? At least 17, let's say, hours. Out of 24 hours, you spend working 17 hours. And what kind of food they eat, we don't know. That's why amongst Tibetan, the tsok that is made from the tsamba, It's very popular, I was told, because they have to go to work early. So if you have grabbed that one while driving, it's very substantial. So imagine, it says, deprive of all that pleasure, that life. You lose your opportunity to spend time with your loved ones, your kids, your siblings, your partners. You sacrifice all that for what? And then here it says themselves of foods, like dieting. Even if you commit so much to make money. Now, some people, of course, they have no choice. They have to do such number of hours in order to survive. They have many obligations. That I understand. But then when you have enough and if you do all this, so you have to ask, why am I doing this? Is life all about, making money? But if making money has a greater meaning, it's okay. And then because of this, you are deprived of your time to commit to Dharma practices. So people do all kinds of things. So they do all this out of ignorance. So here Chandideva is saying that this happens. It is not that they, in a way, not out of their choice or out of freedom. They are compelled by their ignorance, their whatever misunderstanding, their anger, their afflictions, their attachment. So in that case, when somebody does harm to us, we should think this way. It is not their fault completely. So that's why it says here, Choyang jungbu sungwa la member chuba mimba tar tube nyomo ta siki nyomo tangde kansa means. So when the doctors who works in those mental hospitals, so people, those who have mental disorders, they will do all kinds of things. They will hit the doctors. When they do that, it says that Choyang, the doctors don't get angry. Here, of course, Jungbu means when people are possessed by spirits. So it is common, happens. So when they are possessed by something else, then they will act violently or they will hit you. But when this happens, we don't get angry because we know that that person is compelled by whatever spirit is possessing him. So like in the mental hospitals, when those patients, when they hit the doctor, the doctor will not get angry because doctor understands that that person is doing because of his disorder. So what they do is, instead of getting angry, they will try their best to cure that patient of that mental disorder. So likewise, it says, when we see these difficult people, so we also have to think that way, that they are also compelled by their afflictions, and therefore they are acting this way. So I will try my best to help that person. It's difficult, isn't it? When it comes to practice, it's not easy. It's not easy. But nobody said it's easy, isn't it? It is not easy. But if we really want to overcome our anger, then we have to put effort. Then giving more example. Kaji gaji yangsar chongs. Oh, this here. Relationship problems are a leading cause for suicide. and how many causes people commit suicides. Suicides really hurtful to us. It is the worst harm, isn't it, one can inflict on oneself. And here it says that relationship problems linked with over 40% of death by suicide. This is young people in the younger generation. So the suicide, the cause of suicide is mainly when there is breakup, when there's some relationship problems, then they commit suicide. Why I'm showing this is that people do this. People commit suicide. Is there a number here? There's no number, yeah? 45,000. People are committing suicide. And there are some Kaji ga jing yang sar chong dukda me zhu sawa do suna ma yin chue ba yi. So these are examples of how, out of ignorance, people hurt themselves. So, and there are some who injure themselves through the unmeritorious deeds. So unmeritorious deed is engaging in negative karma, because when you engage in negative karmas, then of course eventually it hurts us. Of hanging themselves, leaping from cliffs, eating poisons and unhealthy foods. So imagine leaping from cliff, eating poison. You know that it hurts, but you do that. And then how many people who, what is called, is very common nowadays, self-harm, inflict, those people who may not cause, who may not commit suicide, but they inflict harm on themselves, either out of anger, maybe some sadness, reason. So these causing harm. So when others are capable of causing such harms, inflicting such harm to oneself, whom one treasures so much, which is so precious to oneself, then he's saying there's nothing really surprising that they harm us. What does it say? Most hospital visits by self-harm are poisoning. So these are statistics. You see how many people engage in these acts. Fire, flame 1%, others 9%, poisoning 53%, cutting 35%. So these are real happening. So now Shandideva is laying all these examples. So from all this we can see that people can do this. When others are willing to do cause such harm to themselves, then kanze nyumo wan gyurbe tadu ni jang sue cheba teze teda shinlu la nyumi cheba chedar gyurus. If when under the influence of disturbing conceptions, people will even kill their treasured selves, how can they be expected not to cause harm to the bodies of other living beings? So it's nothing to be, surprised about. It's not that, you think that it shouldn't happen. He said if they are willing to go to that kind of length, to that extent, then he says that it's not so surprising. So what Shandideva is telling us is to reduce this anger, hatred. Because when we are able to think this way, oh, if that person whom he treat himself so precious, cherish himself so much, can go to that extent by causing harm, even committing suicide, then he must be very strongly under the influence of afflictions. Could be ignorance, could be anger, could be jealousy, could be any kinds of afflictions. So we should view them, or shall I say here, we have a saying, isn't it? You should hate the sin, not the sinner. So if we really want to be angry, then should be that person's afflictions. So now it's about, since that is the case, we should, instead of getting angry, we should be more compassionate to the person. We should develop or cultivate compassion to that person. Because if we really think through, it is such an unfortunate, such a sad situation. This shows that the emotion or the afflictive emotion is so strong there that the person could do or engage in such activity. So in that sense, one should generate compassion towards the other person. Nyomon kebe te tabur tasu lasu shubala nyingji gyala majena chowar gyoba chi tazes. So even if I cannot develop compassion for all such people who, through the arisal of disturbing conceptions, set out to try and kill me and so forth, the last thing I should do is to become angry with them. So of course the best is to develop or to generate compassion towards that person. Even if that is not possible, it says that we shouldn't be, at least, at minimum, we shouldn't be angry at that person because he is in such a pitiful situation. So this relates to what I earlier mentioned about. When we apologize, we blame the anger. So now, when others do that, we should be able to see that, because it is not just one way, isn't it? So if you want to take that excuse, then it should also apply to oneself when others do harm. We should be able to blame the person's anger, not the person himself. Break now. So now we are entering another kind of analysis. So here Shantideva is saying now, so Shantideva has already done this analysis. What is your reason of being angry at the person? So let's say if we said, oh, because he caused harm to me, then Shantideva has already refuted that reasoning. Then you yourself engage in all kinds of activities, commit to all kinds of activities that eventually harm you yourself. In that case, you should be angry at oneself, but we don't. So in that case, anger against the other person because that they cause harm is not justifiable, is unjustifiable. So now Shantideva ventures into another kind of a analysis. So this is like so it's like on the analysis of either advantageousness, whether it's a temporary or it is the person's inherent nature. So now Shantideva, oh, I forgot to lift this. So now Shantideva, I forgot to lift the camera cover. So now it's saying that when the person inflicts harm, that intention of causing harm, is it the person's inherent nature or it is advantageous? It's temporary. So it says that even if it were the Gyade Shenla Tsejeba Chiba Namji Rangshin ni Dela Tuwa Mirikde Segwe Rangshin Mekunda. Even if it were the nature of the childish to cause harm to other beings, it would still be incorrect to be angry with them, for this would be like begrudging fire for having the nature to burn. So here it says childish. So it's saying not all people. So people who have this childish nature, who are likened, whose personality or the person is likened to child. So here, child in the sense that they have this, they are filled with afflictions, and then they are ignorant of what is right or wrong. So these kind of people are the ones who inflict harms. So when these people do that, is that their nature or not? If it is their inherent nature, then it says again, anger is not justifiable. Because if it is their nature, then they cannot help at all. So the analogy is about fire. When we poke our finger in the fire, it will definitely burn us. When it happens, do we get angry at the fire? We don't. It says we don't get that. We will blame us, how clumsy I am. Why did I do that? How stupid I am. We don't say, this stupid fire burned my finger. We don't say that. Because we know that fire, the nature of fire is to burn. So here is saying that likewise, if that the intention of the person to harm us, or the action of the person harming us is the person's nature, then we shouldn't be angry at the person because it is his nature. He cannot be helped. Wende kende loburwa simjin rangshin ngeba nang onang tuo merikde kala tutu kumbashins. Now if you said, no, it is not his inherent nature, it is advantageous. Advantageous. If it is advantageous, and it says that. And even if the faults were temporary, in they who are by nature reliable, it would still be incorrect to be angry. It would still be like begrudging space for allowing smoke to arise in it. So when in clear sight, clear sky, when there is a smoke, of course, it kind of fills up the blue sky. So we don't get angry at the sky for having the smoke there. It is temporary. It just circumstantial. So likewise, when the clouds appears in the sky, we don't get angry at the clouds for them to be appearing at that time. So likewise, if we think that that is advantageous, because if it is advantageous, then it says that there's no reason. Our anger is unjustifiable. There's logic, isn't it? Irrefutable logic. Oh, it looks like that's the last slide. Okay. We stop here and then we will resume next week. So see whether you can use this. So of course these are supposed to do analytical meditation. So you first bring to your mind the person you are having difficulty, and then imagine instances where that person behaved when he or she lost his or her cool. So when he was really angry, and then you kind of try to play that image and what happens to the person. Physically, what happens to that person? That physically that person changes, become so ugly, scary, no matter how much makeup you have put on. And the makeup cosmetics are not cheap, isn't it? It's quite expensive. But you apply all that, and then when you lose your cool, when you become angry, what happens? All that is wasted. You look so ugly. People are like so scared of you. She looks or he looks scary. Imagine that, the transformation, physically transformation, from pleasant to unpleasant. And then what does the person say? What does the person do? And you can picture that person as you are watching a movie. And then when you notice all this, then you make a resolve. I don't want to be like that person. I don't want to look scary and ugly in front of others. I don't want to say this. I don't want to outburst, be in what do you call outburst. I don't want to, what is the word now? Lash out. I don't want to say those unpleasant things to others. And then, in some cases, there are physical, aggression. Aggressions are involved. So I don't want to be in that kind of situation. So if you don't want to do, what should we be doing is because we know that that person is acting because of anger. So we have to make a resolve that I am not going to act in the same way as that person. So I will try my best to self-regulate myself when occasions of anger arises. That is the first thing, your resolve. That is part of cause-benefit analysis. So when you see the faults of anger, you don't want to do it. When you see the benefit of patience, you want to do it. So through this reflection, you set up your determination. You make a resolve that I will overcome anger. And then after that, if you have any difficulty with the person, then use this line one by one and see, person did that. And the person is not all the time behaving in that way. Sometimes he's very pleasant, sometimes he's not. And that is because whether these afflictions are at play or not. So when these afflictions arises, then the person behaves in that way. So in that sense, you realize that it is actually his or her afflictions that is causing all this. And then use other analysis, whether it is the person's inherent nature or not. If it's inherent, then you use the Shantidevas logic. So when we do this repeatedly, then I think we will realize that your animosity against the intensity of one's animosity against that person will diminish. And then there will be time that you don't feel any unease. So that's when you have developed patience. You have mastered that. So that's what we are supposed to do. And see whether you can try. Okay, so that's for today. And shall we?
Just begin with the short mandala offering, the first verse. Dedication prayers. Saji Toki
Joje medo dama rera leje nyende jamba de sanje shindo megde buwa Jogu namda jinla jabara sho idang guru rana menda lagana ya te ya me Simjo rinpo je ma je panama je jo je jeba nyamba meba ya kone kondu pewara sho kuzi rabden je namgara tele jojo jeba da lozan tembe dome zazumon je jobe mese tatu ne joro je Korwe shengamzo pendan dewa malu jungme ne chere sewa tenzin jazo ye shabe sede bado ten joro che jedara jemba da kundo zambo deyan de jendo teda kungi jesu dalo je jawan deda damje rabdo ngo tuzon shekbe jawa tamje Ngô gāng lā chōdō ngā bā dē dāgē gyabē tsāwā dē guñ jā sāmbō chō jē rāb dō ngō wā jē. Okay, thank you. Oh, before we leave, I forgot. So, before pandemic, Kangar Rinpoche sent a box of incense to be given to the Rinpoche students for the Kachuling members. But because of pandemic, I didn't have the opportunity to hand over. So before going, you can just take one from me. This is from Kangar Rinpoche. A gift from Rinpoche. And those who are not here, you are not getting this. Come. Yeah, come. Oh. Come, please.
Should I send you an email from my email?
Oh. Oh, shena. De zendol pay you na. Oh. Yeah, you can leave this here. And then, yeah, I think I should announce, isn't it, here? The statue over there. Can you see? Maybe is it possible to? I cannot reach. This one is okay, but still there. Maybe you can pass it. Yeah. So I think those of you remember late Jocelyn, one of our old members of Kachuling. So she passed away, and then she offered this. She has some statues, holy images. So this is a white Tara. So she made the offering to Kachuling Center and also money offering as well. So just to let you all know, and please dedicate your prayers for her. Thank you very much.
so much. It's so